All right, let's set up the back screen. Boom. All right. Greetings. What am I talking about today? I'm talking about the situation where credit card companies are trying to decide what you're allowed to buy based on the actions of a bunch of shrieking Karens. And I agree with Asmongold, calling the credit card companies up is good. Tying them up is one thing. But if that doesn't work, what you need to do is a tactical pushback. And people are like, what are you talking about? I'll explain. Freedom Phil, like and subscribe, and always turn up the video speed. And why do I say that? Because you watch videos faster. Let's get into it, and I'm always sub-horn. You see, it's one thing when you call them up, but if they don't think they're going to lose anything, they may just decide to go with the cackling coven of witches from Australia. I'm sorry, ladies, but you're just like the religious right from back in the day. And it's the same thing. A bunch of other people deciding what you, and I don't care what you're into. I don't even care for the games that they're trying to ban. But what I care is if they can do it there, they can do it everywhere else. Just like if you have any sort of creative, cool culture that you want to do, but other people think that's weird, why should somebody else try to be able to decide how you live your life, how you do it? If you're LGBT, do you remember the religious right? Doesn't it sound familiar how they try to control and ruin your life? If you happen to be some alternative person living off grid and somebody else saying that you can't do something and trying to control your way of getting paid payment processors. So how do you do a tactical pushback? Well, pay attention in the case of Steam, Switch, not Steam basically. How it works. Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and I think there's another card. Notice Discover wasn't on that list. So there's other creditors out there. Your bank works with which ones? Figure that out. Then look at which banks work with something different. Tell your bank the real power. You tell them, hey, if you don't call up these creditors and start saying, you change this. I'm going to take all my money out of this bank and move it over to this other one that isn't trying to control how I live, how I purchase, how I do. Get where I'm going with that? See, that's the real power. That is the absolute real power. Because look, just come calling up and complaining. Sure, that's what the covenant witches can do. But taking your money from one company and saying, I will buy something, even if it's at a higher price with this other company, because they're not trying to tell me what I can do, buy, what I can enjoy. That's how you control a lot of companies. When the pushback is just verbal, that helps. But when the pushback starts costing them money, and even worse, making their opponents more money, that's how you win. Just like with politicians. You make it goddamn well known that whoever's actually fighting for your freedom to buy and purchase whatever, as long as it's not illegal in your country, they shouldn't be able to ban it. And if they want to make it illegal in your country, then bring it to a vote and let the people decide what they want and what they don't want. But don't let a bunch of cackling witches in Australia, just like with the religious right back in the day, just like with the authoritarian left, decide what your freedom is going to be based on their morality. If they don't believe in something, they cannot do it. But them going and threatening these credit companies, nah. So you have to go to the credit companies and tell them, and especially the banks that are the real funding behind them, I will move my money and my business to this other bank that is not affiliated with this, because they'll allow me the freedom to buy whatever the fuck I want. And you watch how quickly Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal all do an about face. And in the meantime, you start talking to your politicians and say, hey, why aren't you doing something about this? Because I agree with Asmongold on this. Payment processors should be treated like a public utility. You can be a private business, but you shouldn't be able to discriminate on who and what you can buy with. If it's not illegal to do something, they shouldn't be able to tell you you can't buy it. Or our morals are blah, blah, blah. No, screw all that shit. You're a payment processor. It's your job to take money from one place and safely get it to another. And then we're supposed to get products sent from wherever. If it's not illegal, then there's no reason you shouldn't be able to buy it. And if you don't agree with the material that they're trying to ban on Steam, I agree with that. But they shouldn't be able to force you what you can do, what you can buy. And remember, if they can do it on something small like this, they could just as easily do it on something else. They could decide, well, you can't buy that gun. You can't, maybe, buy this clothing. And if you go back far enough in time, Native Americans, do you remember when the government told you, you can't dress in your traditional way? You can't play that type of metal music. You a furry? You can't dress up in a fursuit because somebody else has a problem. And I say, if it's not illegal and it's not hurting anybody else, I think the busybodies should just mind their own fucking business. And the payment processors should just do the job of taking money from one place to another. But the only way you're going to outdo all these cackling witches in Australia is if you make sure the banks that really fund these credit cards goddamn know that they will lose a lot of business if they don't do an about face. And then it's your job to make sure the politicians do their proper job. Anyhow, this is Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe. Y'all have a good night. Peace.